Hello guys, it's Rob from East Kent Bonneville. Hope you're doing okay. It is, what is it today? Well, it's the weekend of, don't know, is it the 19th of October, something like that? Anyway, I thought I would just pick up on what's been happening. It's been a massively tiring week at work. I've got a bad back and I wonder whether it was from that long ride last week, but anyway, I'm trying to stretch it out. So I've brought Bruno down to the sea, and as you can see behind me, it's pretty calm. Yesterday would have been ideal longer motorbiking weather. It was just so lovely, wasn't it? We had down in East Kent probably got up to about 18 degrees, full sun. Anyway, I did manage to do a school visit on the Bonnie, and I made one of the more vulnerable kids' day by allowing him to sit on it, and it was such a lovely heartwarming moment. And when he got off the Bonnie, he just shoved his hand out like that, just say, "Oh, thank you so much." So that was a really good moment. Hopefully you can see in here the sloughing of the waves. It's so calm today, but drizzly. Just shooting this little piece to camera on the iPhone 12. Haven't brought the Action 4. I was really pleased with it. Like I said last week, it was second hand, and obviously just getting to grips with what it can do. But obviously last week the wind noise on the video was terrible, so I've been scouring for some DJI Mic 2 second hand, but I have managed to find what I had previously, which is a Rode Lav mic, so ideal for any footage on this iPhone. I thought an idea for this video, my third in this series, would be kind of my motorbike journey. How have I come about getting a Bonneville? So if you're interested in that, listen along. I think I'll also reflect on some of the earlier purchases I've made and been making around some of the motorbiking gear, so jacket, trousers, helmet, etc. I am by no means a mechanic. I am by no means probably a stereotypical motorbiker. I just like the aesthetics and the feel of riding the bike and the freedom that it gives you, as well as just all the opportunities to go places quicker than, say, on my bike, as in cycle, and just all the people you meet. It's just such an inclusive and friendly community. Everyone wants to stop and talk. One thing I've noticed, probably going to alienate loads of people here, but why do Harley riders never look up, never wave, never nod? Anyone tell me that? Put it in the comments below. Look at them. How old is she?
She is 4.
4.
Yeah.
So still, you know.
Yeah, still puppy-like in some respects. And then she'll do all this, and then she's like, "Oh, I'm knackered now."
Yeah, I've had enough. I've had enough. Would she go into the sea if...
all the time, yeah.
And without permission from you guys?
Yeah, yeah. If the mood takes her, she's in, generally.
So I think the first thing to say is that I haven't grown up with motorbikes. No one in my family were into motorbikes. In fact, my parents were really quite anti them, probably seeing them as incredibly dangerous machines, and to some extent, of course, they're right. I really got into cycling, obviously had cars and so on, and thought nothing of it. But when I was working in Croydon, I had to commute from Whitstable into Bromley South on the train, which took about an hour, and then I either used to cycle the last 7 miles to where I was working, and that was great. But then I had lots of other meetings that took me into Croydon, the centre of Croydon, and it's just too much on the bike, and so I decided to get a little Vespa, and I bought a Vespa LX50 up in Croydon for just about £1,000, and I absolutely fell in love with the Vespa. It's just such a wonderful little machine. So with the LX50, Didn't really want to do my CBT, so I just thought I'd buy the thing that I can get on and twist and go. I used to commute on it all over Croydon, and every evening and every morning before school I used to park it up outside Bromley police station, hoping that it would be safe, and for 6 years it was. No one damaged it, no one tampered with it. I was very lucky. I used to know some of the coppers who worked at the Nick, and I'm not saying that they kept an eye on it, but they knew it was there. So time went by, 6 years, my time at that school came to an end, and I secured a job back in East Kent. So I decided, rather than bringing the Vespa back home, because I didn't think I'd need it, I would give it to a garage to sell on my behalf. That was the biggest mistake I made, because they just simply didn't look after it. So I dropped it off in July, and I finally had enough of it because they couldn't sell it, and I picked it up this April. And I'm not surprised, because the state it was in, it was just terrible. They dropped it, scratched it, dented it, ruined it pretty much. I was absolutely hopping mad. They'd cracked the number plate and everything. So I'd hired a van to bring it back down to East Kent, because I thought, oh, the summer's coming, I could probably do some of my school visits on this Vespa, and that's what I did. So had the Vespa, did lots of little mini trips in it, absolutely loved it. And then as the evenings drew out, Dan, who was on the video last week, said, well, why don't you come out and we'll hit some East Kent lanes and maybe stop for a coffee. But I said, well, because you're on a bigger bike and I won't be able to keep up. But luckily he just kept slow and so on, and at that point just thought, oh, I want to go faster than 35, 40 miles an hour downhill. And so he sowed the seed of getting the big boy license, so doing the direct access, and that's what I did. So this coincided with me turning 50 on 20th of July this year, and I thought, well, let's do something. So I thought, well, okay, the first thing I need to do, let's try and get my full motorbike license wrapped up by, say, the end of July. Went along to do my dreaded theory test, didn't do any prep whatsoever. Failed it first time, simply because I didn't know what I was doing. Hazard avoidance was awful. Highway code stuff, terrible. So I had to pay the 23 quid, wait a week, did it again, then failed by 1 mark on the theory bit, but obviously I learnt about the 3-click method from YouTube on hazard perception. Another 23 quid later and a week's wasted time, I went back the third time for the theory and luckily passed. So the following week I went down to Dargate near Faversham and started my CBT with the superb chaps at Invicta Motorcycling Training. They were brilliant. So I did my CBT for the day, and obviously I don't know whether it's a pass or fail, that's how much I know about this process, but got the bit of paper. So at that point, CBT in hand, Dan said, well, why don't you just get a 125, see how it goes, build up some roadcraft, get something like a mutt, get something, you know, not too precious, get some roadcraft, and then build up for direct access a little bit later. Anyway, I decided against that because I thought, oh, I just can't wait. I knew that I'd get really bored on a 125 and it would just be rattly and clunky. I'm sure there's great ones out there, but that suggestion wasn't for me. So I pushed on and did 4-day training with Invicta. Bruno. Oh no! What are you sniffing at? So quite rightly, before you got let loose on a, I think 650, this is how much I know about motorbikes, I don't even know what I trained on. I think it was a Yamaha 650 something or other. You had to go for a couple of hours familiarisation just around the paddock, which I did, just so that they were, you know, they were sure that you could take the jump up from 125 to 650. And to be honest with you, I was absolutely petrified of that. I was just built it up in my mind that I wouldn't be able to cope with a bigger bike. I would drop it, I would just make a complete fool of myself. What have you been rolling in, you nasty dog? Oh, this one rolls in cuttlefish and horrible stuff.
Remember the days we were young, wild and free, basic getting sprung. We used to dance the night away, hang out the whole next day.
So the next stage was the 4-day direct access. So it was absolutely roasting hot. It was probably when the weather in July finally got its act together, and it was about 30-32. Incredibly hot. So I did Saturday, Sunday with Invicta. Great couple of guys on it with me. And we did our 4-day training with the culmination of the test day, Herne Bay Test Centre, on the Tuesday. I felt through the course that I was gaining confidence. I'm still not good on the bends. I can't really go that fast yet, certainly around roundabouts and so on, and I was doing okay. Mod 1 was not too bad. My nemesis was getting enough speed up through the speed trap. The other nemesis was the emergency stop, and my other nemesis was the dreaded U-turn. I know we're all different, but they're the ones that I was absolutely petrified about getting wrong and failing Mod 1, because without Mod 1, as we all know, you ain't going on Mod 2. So I was super relieved to get Mod 1 in my hand, passed, and had about an hour's wait to go on Mod 2 in the roasting heat. And my nerves were building and building and building, and I could feel this, and there was nothing much I could do to control these feelings of anxiety and nerves about going out with the examiner. I think I could have done better at managing this personally, but you know, we're all different and we all handle stress in very different ways. So off we went. Mod 2 seemed to be going okay, but I just want to apologise now for the youngster, the young girl who was actually on that mini roundabout, and I thought, well, yeah, I could probably get over that roundabout quicker than you can. So yeah, so that was when it all started to unravel. And Wayne, the examiner at Herne Bay, pretty much said that he wasn't impressed with that whatsoever. You're on a big motorbike, you've got all of the control, and that's just discourteous. So I think that was a fail on that point straight away. This is where, a bit of a segue here, that I need to invest in a second-hand DJI Mini 2 drone, isn't it? We live in such a beautiful part of the world, and a drone, I think, would add value to some of these shots. But anyway, this is the best I can do, guys. So in the distance, if you're not from East Kent, that's the wind farm. You could probably just see tiny on the speck on the horizon, the old Second World War Maunsell sea forts. Really in the distance is Southend, Shoebury Ness, and that landmass there is the Isle of Sheppey. This is the ever popular The Bubble. It's above the public toilets, but they sell some really good food in there. And beyond, if I zoom in, not the greatest of camera lenses obviously, looks like Whitstable Yacht Club sailing in the distance. So beautiful. So I've just popped back from the sea, and where I am at the moment is the tea gardens, and you can see, because it's the onset of autumn, that the leaves are falling. And here's the little thatched tea hut, but it's closed today. This is a really lovely place if you're in Whitstable, Tankerton, to come and sit and enjoy the sun. Maybe if you've had a bit too much sun on the beach, you can pop back here and you can enjoy refreshments under the shade of the trees. And getting a wet bum, that's what I've noticed on a motorbike. That's horrible, isn't it? Anyway, because of the Vespa, I used to carry a little towel under the seat just to mop off any of the wet, but I'm sat, if you can see, how do I do this? Yeah, that's not so great, is it? On a wet bench. Anyway, where were we? Where were we with this story? Well, so Mod 2 continued. I knew deep down that I'd fouled up cutting up the young driver, and then I think that spiraled into all sorts of jitters, and really culminated. He obviously makes you do about 3 hill starts. 2 were pitch perfect, really happy with those, and then I really don't know what happened on the other one, but my right foot, for some unknown reason, came away from the rear brake, and I put my foot on the highway, and again the feedback there was your bike's not under control, so that's an automatic fail. So I was really disappointed not to have been able to pass Mod 2, get everything wrapped up in the month of July, bearing in mind that I'd been looking around for some time. I really wanted a Royal Enfield bike, and I'd looked and looked and looked. I think it's quite good that I don't know much about bikes, so I very much go on my gut instinct of what I like the look of, and I really like the aesthetics of the Royal Enfields, and that really didn't come to pass. Actually, I'd seen a few in garages and made some inquiries, I'd looked at finance and so on, but luckily I think I didn't choose the Royal Enfield route. And I think some of the reasons were that I'd always had this nagging feeling that probably in time I would grow out of or get bored of a Royal Enfield, even though they're beautiful bikes, of course. And obviously the Triumph Bonneville was in the back of my mind, knowing that, again, I'm not a mechanic, I don't know anything really about the history of bikes, but there was something about the Bonnie and the heritage that really kind of struck a chord with me. So I'd shelved the idea of the Royal Enfield and then started pivoting towards looking on eBay for a suitable Bonnie, and I found one, 2011 plate, in a garage in Monchelsea, which is just a suburb of Maidstone. I was actually working up at Sessions House, County Hall, and after that meeting I drove over to have a look at this Bonnie. I have to say it was love at first sight. Whoever had it before me had really looked after it, and whether the garage had done it a full valet, I couldn't see anything wrong with it, and it was absolutely spotless, not a speck of mud on it. So falling in love, went off to sort out some finance and bought it, and they delivered it on the day that I had failed Mod 2. So imagine how I felt, because not only do you have the ride of shame back to the Invicta where you learn, but you also know that later that day your bike that you have sweated over buying cannot be ridden. I was absolutely gutted. But I've learned in life, I think, as you get slightly older, as Kipling says, success and failure are both imposters. So put it all behind me, stuck it in the garage, and then had to wait probably about 3 weeks until August the 19th to be able to do my Mod 2 again. And yeah, pressure's on, but I thought to myself, I tried to kind of rationalize it in my head, try and get the anxiety levels down, put some chewing gum in, and basically off we went. I don't know whether it was because I'd slept better. It wasn't the test on the back of 4 days of really intense and hot training, but I felt really relaxed. I knew I'd got the Bonnie back at home in the garage. And so I was pleased to get the ride over. I felt really good, actually. I'm not being smug. I'm not a smug person, I hope. And Wayne seemed to take ages filling out whatever he did on that iPad, but came over to me and he said I'd passed. I just couldn't believe it. What was a really nice touch was that Bob from Invicta gives everyone, when he takes them to a Mod 2 test, the lucky Invicta penny, and I'd kept it in my leather jacket, and maybe it was that, maybe the frame of mind was better. So I rushed home, and the next thing I had to sort out, of course, is insurance. Going to have to wrap the video up here because it's just about to pee down, so I'm in the gatehouse of Whitstable Castle. Anyway, insurance. Phone Bennett's up, explain that I've got 6 years no claims bonus on the Vespa, and I want to upgrade to the Bonnie. Said that it's locked away, I don't want to take a pillion, that doesn't really interest me, and I was unbelievably amazed that £32 extra on my premium. I was insured, and then I went out on my maiden voyage down to the Foundry, the Harley and Indian dealership down in Canterbury, because I wanted to look for some panniers. Anyway, let's wrap it up there, and I've thoroughly enjoyed spouting some nonsense, but hopefully along the way it might give anyone else thinking of taking the plunge to get their direct access in their first bike a little bit of a jolt, because perhaps in the next episode we'll talk about some of the equipment choices that I made. But it has been absolutely fantastic so far, and I have not regretted doing direct access and getting my first Bonnie whatsoever. So speak soon, guys.